Lakshmi Gopal and John Kay. And if you've got young children in your family, this could be very important.
That's right. Parents of toddlers are being encouraged to register to access 15 hours of free childcare per week. That's in the new year. The changes were first announced in the government's budget back in March.
Let's have a look at this. So at the moment, most working parents are only entitled to free childcare when their child is 3 years old.
But from April next year, parents of 2-year-olds will be entitled to 15 hours.
And in September, that expands to all children between the ages of 9 months and starting school.
And a year later, the number of free hours will increase to 30. And this is what parents told us.
Up until he was 3, we had to pay, gosh, you're looking at nearly £300 a week for childcare, which is a ridiculous amount of money. He's on his 33 hours now, and suddenly we can breathe a little bit more again.
It would make a big difference to my son and his wife, because childcare is very expensive. And Benjamin, our grandson, is in childcare 3 out of the 5 days a week because both his parents work.
Nursery prices are really expensive at the moment, but I think one of the biggest issues, as well as free nursery, is available spaces and the capacity of nursery workers to cover all the additional hours.
At the earlier stage, it would mean a speedy return back to work for me. I think it would mean a fairer kind of balance at home, or at least to have the choice of going back to work and not having to sacrifice my career.
I work part-time at the moment. I made that decision based on I obviously want to spend time with my children, but also financially it's not worth me working full-time when I'd have to pay for full-time childcare.
So that's how it affects parents. What about the nurseries themselves? We're joined now by CEO and founder of the Sunflower Childcare Group, Elaine Sagar, and by Neil Leitch from the Early Years Alliance. Morning to both of you. Hi, Elaine. So what does this mean for you?
More losses and threat to our sustainability, basically.
Really? Just explain
Absolutely.
why.
The government have been underfunding the hours that they call free hours for years. On average, a minimum of £1 less an hour than what it costs us to provide the childcare. And by extending this to 9-month-olds, it's going to create a problem. Sustainability, there's already thousands of nurseries closed this year, so I don't quite know where they're going to find the spaces. And we've got a recruitment crisis where we can't get quality staff because they don't want to work in the industry anymore.
And what is it, do you think, that would change that? What would you like to see? Because I suppose the government would say, we're putting more money in, this is how much more money we're putting in. Is it a case of throwing more money at the problem, or do you think this needs a bit of an overhaul?
It needs an overhaul. It definitely needs more money. I know Neil's been campaigning for this along with others for many years, and minimum wage has gone up by over 14%, and childcare fees, payments from the government have gone up by 3.4%. So they need to look at that and pay us correctly, and then possibly we can get the staff to fill the places.
So you're saying that the extra money that you will get will be swallowed up by increased salaries as well?
100%. It won't even cover it.
So it won't touch the size?
No, absolutely not.
OK.
Well, it might be a good time to bring in Neil then. Neil, good morning. The government is saying this is the largest ever expansion of free childcare in England, but the message here seems to be that that doesn't go anywhere near being enough.
No, and I think Elaine's mapped it out very, very well. I mean, more money doesn't mean that it's enough money. And frankly, we've been here before. Whenever we have another initiative from government, we're sort of given more money at that particular point in time, and then they were left out in the wilderness for the next few years. I mean, there's a reason that we've lost something like 30,000 providers. They've closed their doors in the last decade. And so, we have a workforce, as Elaine again has said, that basically is on its knees, don't have adequate funding. It's a great news story for parents on the surface, but if you don't have an infrastructure that's going to be able to deliver that, then I'm not sure that they'll be that happy when they knock on the doors of childminders and nurseries, basically, and they're told, I'm sorry, we can't accommodate your particular requests. So on the surface, sounds like a great claim, but I'm afraid in reality, it's something else.
But I mean, the numbers that the Department for Education would say look very impressive, don't they? Taking investment from £4 billion a year in childcare to over £8 billion by 2027-28. I mean, ministers probably say they can't win.
Well, let me put that into context for you, okay? Because I think this is really important. So the average hourly rate, for example, for a 3 and 4-year-old that would be paid in 2024 is £5.88. Now flick back to December of 2018, when we were frankly tired of hearing government constantly trot out its same old lines, there's enough money in the system, etc. We said to them, if you think there's enough money in the system, show us your figures. They told us to go away, so we filed a freedom of information request. It took us 2.5 years and the Information Commissioner to rule in our favour before we got that response. And what did it say? It said, their words, not mine, that they would require an additional £2 billion to adequately fund these entitlements. They also put a figure on it. They said that by 2021, they would have to pay an hourly rate of £7.49. Since then, of course, we've had the trust era, the budget, the impact of inflation. In the last sort of 3 years, minimum wage has risen by 30%. Doesn't take a lot to work out. There is still a significant difference. And it's interesting that the Institute of Fiscal Studies themselves, independent of the sector, has said that basically speaking, we are still 10% worse off than we were in 2012, 11 years ago. So, you know, regardless of the rhetoric, regardless of the claims, the reality is we are struggling. That's why we have a recruitment and retention crisis. And when the government announced that they say this funding will cover your costs for minimum wage, and they say it in a very proud manner, we should be ashamed that we are paying people who are educating our children, caring for our children, creating good citizens for the future, and we're still working on minimum wage. That's the sector that we have.
Neil, Elaine was nodding along to you there, so I just want to bring Elaine in now. And as Neil was saying, and this is something we've also talked about before, we've been here before, talking about the issue of recruitment and retention for the industry. How do you make this industry more attractive as a place to be? How do you solve that crisis?
We need to pay a lot more than minimum wage, which unfortunately, because of the funding, we can't do. I, for one, would love to pay my staff far more than what I am doing for the job that they're doing. We've got degree teachers. Just to say that the maintained schools get a top-up payment so that they can pay adequately. We don't. So, and Neil's saying that the average is £5.88 an hour. In our area, we get £4.85. It costs us £5.33 minimum to run an hour. So 100 children an hour doesn't work out, doesn't take a mathematician to work out that we're losing £100 an hour. That's £1,000 a day.
Elaine, Neil, thank you very much indeed for talking to us this morning. It's something we will keep a close eye on in the weeks ahead. If that affects you and your family and your kids, do get in touch with your comments this morning. It'd be good to hear from you.